A YouTube channel I've been watching lately is The Bones 5, a challenge runner who's been documenting his experiences completing some of the toughest challenges in the Five Nights at Freddy's series, as well as Cuphead and Dark Souls. His videos introduce the challenge at hand, break down the respective game's mechanics in order to explain how to beat said challenge, and then take you through the story of his sometimes month-long grind to clear it. The videos are extremely captivating, and if you somehow haven't watched them already, I would strongly recommend doing so. Anyway, the point is that his videos have inspired me to try something similar with a game I've been meaning to talk about for a couple of years now. While this challenge is nowhere near as difficult as anything The Bones 5 has done, I still think it would make for an interesting video, so here we go. Can you beat Night Blights without sprinting? Yes, not only is it possible, it's actually not that difficult, provided you know how the game works. But first, I have a feeling most of you have either never heard of, or perhaps forgotten about Night Blights, so let me start by formally introducing the game. Night Blights is a game where you play as a toddler, who must protect their household from a horde of the titular Night Blights, little shadowy gremlin creatures that only children can perceive. The Blights are positioned at various attack points, or threats as I'll be calling them, throughout your house. Occasionally, one of the Blights will begin attacking from that point, usually signified by a sound cue. Once they start, you must get over to where it is and stop the Blight before it gets too far. Repeat until the clock hits 7 AM, and you win. Much like Five Nights at Freddy's, the game takes place across a series of 7 nights, and your objective in most of them is to survive until the night is over. If either you or your family are killed by a Night Blight, you fail and must restart the night from the top. So while it's not a FNAF fan game per se, it's still very adjacent to FNAF, despite what the creator may say. Night Blights was created by Gary Bunn, also known as The Hot Cross, a YouTuber, Twitch streamer, and game design teacher who created Night Blights originally as a student project, releasing that version for free in 2014. 2 years later, he worked with Trapdoor Games to refine, polish, and add new stuff to the game, releasing the upgraded version in 2016 for $7. Obviously, this is the version I'll be playing in this video. According to Gary, FNAF didn't have a lot of influence on Night Blights, outside of the survival objective and the night-by-night gameplay structure. In fact, Gary hadn't even played FNAF at the time he made this game. That said, the games do share a lot of similarities, so I think it's fair to compare the two. Sorry, Gary. Regardless, Night Blights has plenty of unique aspects to it, and I'd say it does a great job of adapting the FNAF formula to a free roam environment, however unintentional it may be. When it comes to content, Night Blights has the main 7 nights, as well as a free play mode, but that's about it. There's no max mode or any kind of ultimate challenge to sink our teeth into. There was an endless mode, but not only is there no goal to reach in that mode, you also can't play the mode in the current version due to a bug. Trying to enter the mode causes the game to lock up on a black screen. On the off chance you're watching this, Gary, I'd be very grateful if you could fix this. I do understand if you don't want to, though. So, with no max mode available, the main way to make this game more challenging is to impose some kind of restriction on the standard gameplay, and no sprinting is a pretty obvious one. The game even promotes this challenge by awarding an achievement if you can beat Wednesday without sprinting. If you've played Night Blights before, you know how important sprinting is. The main source of tension in the game is reaching the threats in time before they break free, and sometimes you're gonna have to sprint to make that happen. Careful not to sprint too much though, because your stamina is finite and does not regenerate. As it gets lower, your blinks become heavier and heavier, and if it runs out, a blight will kill you on the next blink. Yes, it's a lot like the power in FNAF. Sorry Gary, it's true. Of course, in this challenge we won't be sprinting, and as far as I can tell, sprinting is the only thing that depletes stamina, so that'll be a non-issue for us. But will our walking speed really be fast enough to reach every threat in time in order to survive each night? Let's find out.
Okay, so the first night is never usually that bad in any of the games, so I'll play through.
What the fuck?
Monday begins with 2 initial mechanics/threats, the 2 hungry blights under the beds, and the 5 wardrobes. Yes, that is a fridge, but it works identically to the wardrobe, so I'll be including it in the group. Besides, a fridge is basically a wardrobe for food anyway. The 2 blights under your family's beds will occasionally growl and demand food. To stop them, you will need to feed them one of the many toys scattered throughout the house, which will stave off their hunger for a little while. One of these blights is under your parents' bed upstairs, and the other is under your sister's bed downstairs. Both of them make different growls when they're hungry, with the upstairs blight saying, "Feed me," and the downstairs blight saying, This might sound like a minor point, but knowing which one of these two is hungry will save your bacon on the later nights, so keep it in mind. If you take too long to bring them a toy, they will progress a stage, growling again as they do so. After progressing 3 stages, they'll be at the very edge of the bed. You can still feed them, but they'll kill you if you get too close, so be careful. If they manage to progress one more time, they will climb the bed and eat whoever's sleeping in it, which is an instant fail. Since stopping this threat requires using up a toy, one thing you'll have to be doing throughout each night is toy hunting. Toys are hidden everywhere, and many of them are on high-up surfaces that make you climb around on the furniture in order to reach. Monday spawns so many toys that you'll never have to worry about running out yet, but it's still good to get some practice in with climbing around, because later on, you're gonna have to be doing this fast. Then there's the wardrobes. There's one in each of the bedrooms, one in the upstairs hallway, and the fridge in the downstairs kitchen. Each one has a blight inside who will gradually creak the doors open across 4 stages, and you must walk up and shut the doors before they can open all the way. If they do open all the way, you'll hear a blight snarling, and after that, well, not much happens honestly. The blight inside never leaves the wardrobe, and though it can kill you, it only does so if you get really close to it. The main 2 punishments for letting a wardrobe open is 1, you'll lose one of the 3 stars you can earn at the end of each night, and 2, the main threats, in this case the hungry blights, will activate slightly more frequently. Otherwise though, the wardrobe's opening really isn't that much of a concern. It's more so something to take care of naturally while you're hunting for toys. Manage to keep the hungry blights fed and the wardrobes shut for 10 minutes, and that's Monday beaten with all 3 stars. For this challenge, I attempted to get all 3 stars on every night, meaning that letting a wardrobe open or letting a threat break free was considered a fail. Naturally, not sprinting doesn't increase the challenge on Monday very much, so let's move on.
You'll always be like, it's Tuesday and it's, yeah, I'll chill your arms up, you daft course.
Tuesday puts your little baby brother in danger of a skydiving blight, and also unlocks the garage door, letting the blights mosey on in whenever they want. But they're at least nice enough to wait until the door is fully open first. If you hear your baby brother crying from your bedroom, you must go spin the mobile above his crib, which causes the attacking blight to think better of the whole situation and retreat. At least I think that's why the blight stops attacking. Fail to reach your brother in time, and the blight will kill him, ending the night. The safest way to spin the mobile is to jump from the foot of the crib, since sometimes a blight spawns under the crib poised to kill you if you approach the mobile from that side. As long as you jump here every time, you'll be safe. If you hear the garage door opening, you must go all the way to the garage and use the drawers of this workbench to climb up to the button and close it. If the blights manage to fully open the door, they'll get inside. Unlike the previous threats, this does not end the night, not yet anyway, but it does let the blights loose in your house, where they will lurk around corners and try to catch you by surprise. How this works is weird. There are certain zones of the house, usually doorways or corners, that have a chance to be marked as dangerous whenever you walk towards them, signified by a single loud night blight breath. If you enter this zone while the breath sound is playing, you'll be killed. If you wait for it to stop, you can pass safely. It is possible, and in fact very likely, that one of these zones will become dangerous as soon as you pass through it, resulting in a nearly unavoidable death. That might sound like BS, but remember that this only happens if the blights get in. Just keep them out next time, and you'll be fine. Also, letting the garage fully open, and letting any other threat past this point break free, will also cause you to lose one of the 3 stars given at the end of the night. So, manage these 2 in addition to the hungry blights, and that's Tuesday done.
It's just one of those days where you don't want to wake up. Everything is sucked. Everybody sucks.
Wednesday unlocks the bathroom, where a blight will try to break in through your toilet, signified by a gurgling sound. Once it starts, go in and flush the toilet to get rid of the blight. The second threat introduced is far more interesting. The fireplace is now lit, and a blight will occasionally try to enter through the chimney, which causes the fire to start dying. In that case, you use the bellows to reignite the fire and chase the blight off. Unlike the other threats, this one has no sound cue, so you're gonna have to keep your eye on it throughout the night. General rule of thumb is, if nothing has happened for a minute, go check the fireplace, because it might be dying. We'll talk about why that is later. If either of these threats break free, the blights will begin lurking around the house just like the garage blights. Wednesday is tough, but fairly manageable. You'll be pulled all over the house from how many threats there are, but they still move really slowly, so you'll have plenty of time to reach them. This is also the night that awards an achievement if you beat it without sprinting, which tells me Gary may have thought that Wednesday is the farthest you can get with this challenge. And I definitely don't blame him, because Thursday is when things get really tricky.
Gregory, do you see the small vent on the floor? Have you ever heard of Among Us, Gregory? You need to vent. Thursday
only adds one new threat, the vents. However, this single addition elevates the difficulty of this challenge tenfold, mainly due to how long it takes to stop it. When a blight starts crawling through the vents, their eyes will appear in one of the 4 vents in the walls, and you can eventually hear a faint sound cue of their scraping claws. The blight will descend through each of the wall vents until it reaches the one in the basement, and if it manages to break out, it too will start lurking around the house. In order to stop it, you have to go all the way down to the basement and hit this button. On Thursday, this isn't a terribly huge problem, all the threats still progress fairly slow, so in most cases you should be able to reach the next threat in time, although you'll really have to rush if it's an upstairs threat. I did have a couple of fails on Thursday, but those were due to either running out of toys from a lack of effective toy hunting, or due to a wardrobe somehow opening all the way from fully shut to fully open in less than 2 minutes since I last checked it. That just shows how random the wardrobes can be. Other than that, Thursday is hard, but overall manageable without sprinting. Friday is another story. Friday opens the attic, which adds a 6th wardrobe to keep an eye on, but that's it, there are no new threats added otherwise. To make up for this, all the threats now progress significantly faster than previous nights, which causes a whole host of problems if the vents are activated. In the time it takes you to stop the vents from the first time you hear its sound cue, a 2nd threat has more than likely started, and if it's one of the upstairs threats, you might not be able to get back up and reach it in time. And that's how it is playing normally. In the no sprinting challenge, chances are very high that you won't reach it in time. If the 2nd threat is a downstairs threat, you will be able to reach it, but upstairs threats will put you in a conundrum. If you go and stop the vents first, you may not reach the 2nd threat in time. But if you deal with the 2nd threat first, then there's a good chance the vents will break free, since they also move a lot faster on Friday. This is the biggest difficulty hurdle people experience on these last nights, and a part of that is attributed to how the vents are kind of rigged against you. Unlike other sound-based threats, the vents don't actually make any noise until they've hit stage 2 of progression, where the blight's eyes appear in the upstairs vent. Before then, the blight's eyes are only visible in the attic vent, and the attic isn't even opened on Thursday. Due to how the game works, which I'll talk about shortly, by the time you're able to hear the vents, you are effectively given less time to clear them before another threat starts. So if the game's RNG chooses to give you the vents followed by an upstairs threat on Friday, it might just be game over with very little we can do about it. So, is that it? We play the night, never sprint, and hope that the game never gives us vents? And if it does give us vents, then we either hope that we're close to the basement already, or that the next activated threat is one of the downstairs ones? Do we really have to rely on RNG to finish these nights without sprinting? Thankfully, no, not entirely. There exists a strategy that allows you to tell when the vents are being attacked, even before their sound cue becomes audible. This strategy does require knowing how the game works, so let's get to that now.
Among Us! Among Us!
So as I've established, Night Blights has 7 major threats you're going to be dealing with from Thursday onwards. The 2 hungry blights, the blight attacking your baby brother, the blights at the garage, the blights in the toilet, the blight in the chimney, and the blight in the vents. All of these threats work under the same system. The 5 wardrobes, or 6 on Friday, use a different system that I don't know much about. They open and progress at random with seemingly no pattern as to when they do, so I won't be talking about them very much. As for the 7 threats, all of them operate under a global activation timer that runs throughout the whole night. This timer is 60 seconds on Monday, 50 seconds on Tuesday, 40 seconds on Wednesday and Thursday, 35 seconds on Friday, and 45 seconds on Saturday. Sunday is not a normal night, so it's not applicable there. On Monday, this timer begins the moment you fed both of the Hungry Blights in the tutorial, and on Tuesday and beyond, this timer begins the moment you gain control. Once the appropriate amount of time has elapsed, one of these 7 threats is randomly chosen to be activated, and then the timer resets. Essentially, a threat will activate every 60 seconds on Monday, every 50 seconds on Tuesday, 40 seconds on Wednesday and Thursday, and so on. A full night lasts exactly 10 minutes, so we can do some quick math to see exactly how many threats will activate throughout each night, with an asterisk I'll cover shortly. Of course, the game can only activate threats that are available on that night, so if it's Monday, only the Hungry Blights can be activated, since none of the other threats are unlocked. Since this activation timer has no randomness applied to it whatsoever, we can make a list of time intervals where a threat is all but guaranteed to activate, and now we know exactly when to be prepared for something. It's worth noting that the activation timer doesn't have anything to do with each threat's progression timers. Once a threat is active, they will progress at a rate that is independent of the global activation timer. For example, while Saturday has a longer activation timer than Friday, once activated the threats will still progress just as fast as they do on Friday, making them less frequent, but still just as dangerous. Unfortunately, I can't give exact values on the threats' progression timers because there appears to be a very slight randomization applied to them. On average, the Hungry Blights take around 26 seconds to progress each stage on Monday for an approximate total time of 1 minute and 44 seconds before they break free. On Friday, this becomes around 10 seconds to progress each stage for an approximate total time of 50 seconds to break free. Most of the other threats have similar progression speeds, so it's safe to assume you have to be this fast for all of them. Though, one outlier is the toilet, which progresses so blindingly fast on Friday that it's able to break free before the next threat can start. The vents also progress slower than the other threats, but since clearing them takes so long, you should still get on it ASAP potentially soon. Anyway, there are 3 caveats with the consistency of this activation timer that I should let you know about. First of all, the timer on Monday is a little weird. Monday begins with a brief tutorial sequence where the game activates the Hungry Blights in quick succession, in order to teach you how to deal with them. The upstairs Blight is activated 20 seconds in, then the downstairs Blight is activated 40 seconds in. Once you've fed both Blights, the 60-second activation timer begins right here, and 10 seconds afterwards, the fridge is forced to open, accompanied by a prompt telling you to go close it. So the exact intervals for the Hungry Blights activating on Monday will depend on when you feed the second Blight at the beginning of the night. Secondly, Monday and Tuesday have a leniency feature put in place, where the game will avoid having more than one threat active at a time. If a threat activates and it takes you so long to reach it that you end up hitting the next 60 or 50 second interval, the game will not start another threat, at least not yet. Sometimes the next threat is delayed until you clear the first one, and sometimes the next threat is seemingly cancelled. Whatever the game does with it, in the process it seems to pause the activation timer momentarily, as now threats will begin activating on completely different intervals than what you'd expect. There are still 60 or 50 seconds between them, but the intervals themselves have been pushed ahead of where they're supposed to be. As long as you clear each threat as soon as possible, this should never happen. Even if it does, Monday and Tuesday are such easy nights that it honestly doesn't matter. Once you reach Wednesday, this leniency feature is removed. A second threat can now activate simultaneously if it takes you too long to clear the first one. The final caveat is that if a Blight breaks free from a threat, or one manages to fully open a wardrobe, the global activation timer will be decreased by about 4 or 5 seconds. For example, if you're playing Thursday and any of these threats break free or one of the wardrobes fully opens, threats will now activate roughly every 35 seconds instead of every 40 seconds. Once activated, they will still progress at the same rate. If another wardrobe or threat breaks free, then this time decrease will stack. These latter 2 caveats can throw off all the intervals and threat counts per night that I showed earlier, but as long as you get rid of every threat quickly and never let a wardrobe fully open, these time intervals and threat counts will remain consistent. And we can use this consistency to our advantage. Since only one threat can activate at a time, the sooner you deal with said threat, the more time you'll have to hunt for toys or shut wardrobes before the next threat starts. And since they occur at fixed intervals, you can always be ready to deal with the next one once the time comes around. So that's great and all, but how does that help us deal with the vents? Well, note how among the threats that can be activated at each interval are the fireplace and vents. These two are the only ones to not play a sound cue upon activation, but they will still be activated at these intervals all the same. So we can figure out when the vents have been activated via process of elimination. If an activation interval comes around and you don't hear any sound cues, then it must be that either the fireplace or the vents have activated. From there, the first thing to do is check the fireplace. If it's dying, then great, there's your active threat. If the fireplace is fine, however, then it's the vents that must be active. Now you can go to the basement right away and stop them far earlier than normal, giving you plenty of time to reach the next threat. On Friday with the no sprinting challenge, it's almost guaranteed that another threat will start by the time you climb back into the living room. But since you cleared the vents much sooner than normal, you'll now have enough time to reach the threat, no matter which one it is. So if you think the vents might be active due to the uneventfulness of everywhere else, always make your way to the basement ASAP. Whether or not the vents are active is confirmed once you get a view of the blue button. If the button is lit up, then the vents are indeed active and you should go press it. If it's not lit up, the vents are not active and you must turn back, because something else probably needs your attention. There is one complication with this strategy. It's possible for you to hit an activation interval and hear nothing. But in reality, one of the sound-based threats did activate, and you were just too far away to hear it. Night Blights has a quirk in its audio where if you get too far away from the source of a noise, the noise will drop off and become inaudible. For this reason, you want to make sure you are in the center of the house at every interval. Either the living room or the main part of the upstairs hallway will do. From these two locations, every sound-based threat is within earshot, so if you're in this region and you don't hear anything when an interval comes around, then it's all but certain that the fireplace or vents have activated. So, your bedroom, the attic, the garage, the kitchen, and especially the basement should be visited as briefly as possible. Only go to these areas if you have to deal with a threat or shut a wardrobe. Once you're done, get out and get back to the center of the house as quick as you can. While the bathroom isn't too far away from the center of the house, I would still avoid going in there, because visiting the bathroom rolls the chance for a spooky event, where the bathroom door is shut for about 10 seconds, wasting precious time. On that note, I should probably mention the special blights that can sometimes spawn throughout a night. The most prominent two are this blight on the staircase, or a blight that can spawn in one of the 5 potted plants throughout the house. To avoid both of these blights, you just stay away from them. Approaching them gets you killed. The staircase blight is easily evaded by just going up the other side. However, the potted plant blight is a little more mean, as if it spawns, it will remain where it is for a very long time. Of the 5 plants, this one by your bedroom is the weakest spawn. This plant isn't guarding anything, and it's way out of the way, so it's easily avoidable. Same goes for this one in the bathroom, which is also easily avoidable. The third weakest goes to this one by the shelf. It'll prevent you from reaching this toy spawn, but otherwise, it's also a non-issue. The second strongest spawn is this one by the couch, which blocks the shortcut to the garage. If it spawns here, you'll have to go the long way around this chair, which could honestly make the difference between reaching the garage door in time and not. But by far the strongest plant spawn is the one by the fireplace, which blocks the shortcut to the fridge. This forces us to take the long way to the fridge every time, which is terrible for the no sprinting challenge. If a blight spawns in this pot while you're doing this challenge, you might just want to reset the run. That or hope the fridge doesn't open too often. That's it for the special encounter blights that matter. Every other special event is either cosmetic or has the same rules. Just stay away. Just so you're aware, seeing these blights does not mean you let a wardrobe open or anything like that. These blights can always spawn no matter how well you're doing in the night. There's one last thing to cover before we get into the strategy. Friday will add a 6th wardrobe to keep track of during the night, which sounds horrendous, but thankfully this wardrobe opens much slower than all the others. In my experience, I've only ever had to shut it once throughout the whole night. Still, whenever you have time, preferably when you've just taken care of an upstairs threat, take a quick peek up in the attic to see how it's doing. With the basic mechanics covered, and the foundations of the strategy having been built, let's put the rest of it together and explain how we're gonna do this thing. Here is how to beat Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of Night Blights without sprinting. First, let's cover General House Traversal, since there's a few things you'll need to know there. Throughout the No Sprinting Challenge, we'll be making use of two particular shortcuts that speed things up drastically. The first of these is to bring a red stool over to this table, jump up onto the table, and then jump over the railing to get downstairs much faster. Don't worry, there's no fall damage. This toddler came equipped with long fall boots. The second shortcut is to use this potted plant to jump onto the kitchen counter, making a much more direct route to the fridge. Not only is this much faster than going around the other way, but jumping onto the counter gives us access to at least 2 potential toy spawns, which is a great help when toy hunting. Unfortunately, there's no way to get back over the counter. Even the red stools don't get you high enough to jump back over, so we will need to take the long way out. But this still saves a bunch of time for whenever we need to shut the fridge. For the garage, keep in mind that on these later nights, the bottom drawer of the workbench will be slammed shut whenever you visited the garage once or twice, requiring the use of a stool to reach the garage door button. Usually a stool will spawn right outside of the garage, but this isn't always the case, so you might want to bring this stool towards the garage at the beginning of the night to make sure you can always stop the garage door. If you don't, something like this may happen to you. For a few final tips on traversal, remember that holding down space makes you jump slightly higher, always go between the couch and the chair when making your way to the garage unless a blight spawns in this plant, jumping up the stairs is way faster than walking, and you can use the toy or item in your hand to push another one if you need to move 2 items at once for any reason. And no, it's not just you. The item pickup mechanics in this game are scuffed. It'll often take you 2 or 3 more tries to pick up a toy than is reasonable. Anyway, let's get to how a night is played out using this strategy. At the start of the night, grab a toy from your bedroom, if there are any, and bring it to the parents' bedroom. You'll want to count how many toys are in each of the 2 bedrooms, so that when you're toy hunting, you'll know which bedroom needs the toys more. So do a quick scan for toys in the parents' bedroom, then set up the stairs shortcut and do the same for the sister's room. You may also want to fit in moving this red stool towards the garage if there's time. By the time you're done checking both bedrooms, the first threat is about to start, so here's where the night's cycle begins. Be sure to position yourself in the living room or the main area upstairs at every appropriate interval. On Friday, this will be every 35 seconds. If it helps, you can write down each of the intervals for the night so you don't have to memorize them or do quick math while playing. Once an interval is hit, wait for a second and listen. If you hear a sound cue, go take care of that threat. If you hear nothing, check the fireplace. If the fireplace is fine, go to the basement and stop the vents. Whatever happens, the ideal result is that you'll have stopped the threat very quickly, well in advance of the next 35-second interval. Now, use the downtime between threats to hunt toys and shut wardrobes. If you have 3 or 4 toys waiting near each bedroom, then your priority should be shutting wardrobes. In either case, grab as many toys and/or shut as many wardrobes as you can in the immediate area of the threat you just cleared, but make sure you're back in the center of the house before the next interval. You can check how the wardrobe in your bedroom is doing from a distance by looking for its knob. If you can see the wardrobe's knob up here, then that means it has opened to its second stage. Whether you should go and shut it depends on how much time you have before the next threat, or whatever the next threat turns out to be. If you've just cleared a downstairs threat, the sister's room, fireplace, or garage, this makes a great time to get the wardrobe in your sister's room or the fridge. By far the best opportunity to shut the fridge is right after clearing the fireplace, which positions you right next to the shortcut. If the threat was the garage, you'll have a little less time for the fridge, but reaching the wardrobe in your sister's room is still viable. Then there's the vents. The vents take you so far from everything that you're basically unable to shut any wardrobes during the following downtime, especially on Friday. You'll have to wait for the next threat to get any time for wardrobes, and if the next threat is also the vents, that makes things even worse. This is one case where you can be screwed by RNG, even with this strategy. If the game activates the vents too many times in one night, or even does so multiple times in a row, you might be too occupied dealing with them to take care of all the wardrobes. Sure, letting a wardrobe open doesn't fail the night necessarily, but it speeds up the activation timer, thus messing up the intervals, and thereby complicating the strategy. Plus, you'll lose a star, and I want all 3 of those, damn it! So if you want to beat the night with all 3 stars, you will have to hope for decent RNG on threat activations. Fortunately, the odds are in your favor. Night Blights seems to discourage itself from activating the same threat twice in a row. Even though it can happen, it doesn't happen very often. And I don't think I have ever seen a threat activate 3 times in a row. But still, if the game keeps activating threats in the same area of the house, it's gonna be really difficult, if not impossible, to keep up with all the wardrobes. Ideally, all the threats each take a turn activating at some point in the night, so you have the opportunity to keep everything under check. But there is still a small chance that RNG makes a night impossible to 3-star in the no sprinting challenge. But assuming you have average luck, this strategy is extremely consistent and much better than listening for the vents' audio cue. Using this strategy, I have been able to 3-star Friday without sprinting multiple times in a row. There have been many close calls, but very little of it was ever impossible. But what about Saturday?
Was that the Blight of 87?
Saturday is a much more unique night from the previous 5. Rather than add new threats or increase the existing one's speeds even more, this night adds a secondary objective that must be completed in order to win. The Night Blights book, that is the game's menu, an ingenious idea by the way, originally ends quite badly, saying the Night Blights will inevitably kill you and destroy your house at the end of the week. But once you beat Friday, the kid you play as forges a plan, taping over the original pages with new rhymes. Their plan is to build a Blight Buster and shoot them. This kid's gonna serve their country well. Saturday is spent collecting the newly spawned items needed to build said Blight Buster, while also dealing with the Blights. The required items are a computer mouse from the newly opened office, or study, a flashlight from the attic, a cup from your sister's room, a box of straws from the kitchen counter, a roll of duct tape from the garage, and a box of crayons from the basement. All these items must be brought back to the toy chest in your bedroom before 7 AM. That's right, the goal time is now a time limit, at least until you have all the items. Once you do, you'll still have to make it to 7 AM with you and your family alive in order to win. Luckily, this night's activation intervals are every 45 seconds instead of 35, giving us 10 extra seconds between threats. In fact, this is even longer than Wednesday and Thursday, which both gave 40 seconds. However, as mentioned earlier, once the threats activate, they will progress just as fast as they did on Friday, so you'll have to get to the threats ASAP just like before. The strategy for Saturday is not that different. The main thing is that we have a third objective to do during downtime, collecting the items. This will be our top priority for most of the night, as the items are spread out everywhere and thus take a long time to bring to your bedroom. Unfortunately, your bedroom is quite far from the center of the house, so unless your baby brother starts crying, finding the time to bring the items back there can be tricky. Remember that you can move 2 items at once by holding one item and pushing another, which can help you save a little bit of time. When it comes to reaching the items in the first place, here's a few tips. The computer mouse can be collected at the start of the night, since the office is small and right next to your bedroom. However, I would recommend leaving it in the hallway at first, so you can assess the toy situation and prepare for the first threat. Most of the other items are placed right next to a threat, and the 2 most out-of-the-way items are placed near something we'll be checking on anyway. The box of straws can be easily collected the first time we visit the fridge, and the flashlight can be obtained during our brief attic check. Every other item can then be collected after stopping their accompanying threat. That's right, we actually want the vents to activate at least once. There is the small possibility that the garage or the vents simply never activate, forcing us to find time to collect the crayons and/or duct tape on our own. But again, this is rare. I've only had one Saturday run where the vents never activated. Once you have an item, bring it as close to the room as you can before the next threat, though make sure to take care of any outstanding wardrobes. The best opportunities to actually get the items into the toy chest come after clearing an upstairs threat. Even still, getting every item into the chest without sprinting takes a lot of time, so you might need to hope for some good threat RNG in order to get all the items in successfully. If the game keeps giving you downstairs threats or god forbid the vents multiple times in a row, this can be a huge problem for beating the time limit. Remember that you have 10 minutes to get all the items in the chest. You can use a stopwatch to have a better idea of how much time you have remaining. I don't consider this cheating since the FNAF community does it all the time in their challenge runs. While collecting all the items adds a few complications to the formula of the night, as long as you keep track of your remaining time, and don't forget about the intervals, this night shouldn't be terribly difficult without sprinting. Those 10 extra seconds between threats make a huge difference, so take the utmost advantage of it and you'll have Saturday 3-starred before you know it. If you'd like to see the overall no sprinting strategy put into action, I'll leave a link to commentated runs of Friday and Saturday in the description below. I'd say Saturday is about as hard as Friday, but for very different reasons. Friday challenges your ability to keep up with all the ruckus throughout your house, while Saturday challenges your time management and map knowledge. It's a very interesting idea for a Night 6, and it's one of my favorite things about this game. With Saturday complete, we have officially beaten the main 6 nights of Night Blights without sprinting. All that's left is Sunday.
Peace be with you all.
Sunday. The Sabbath. A day of rest. Not in this house! Sunday is when you blast all the Night Blights to smithereens, and then get grounded by your parents afterwards because of the mess you've made. As such, it plays nothing like the other nights. Blights will emerge from the various attack points in the house, including some new ones that were never used before, like the back door in the kitchen. Afterwards, they will roam around the house to hunt you down. Little do they know, they've brought their claws to a gunfight. You can use your makeshift Blightbuster to fire a giant magic glowstick beam at the Blights, which costs 1 glowstick as ammunition. You can only hold up to 5 glowsticks at once, and if you run out, you'll have to find the scattered glowsticks that spawn over time throughout the house. There are 3 types of Blight that attack. The standard variety that walks around and dies in 1 shot, the brute that takes 2 shots to kill, and the crawling ones that move slowly at first, but speed up drastically once they spot you. Since the previous 6 nights, the Blights must have taken breath mints or something, because even though they do emit a very faint growl and footsteps as they move around, this is much quieter than their breathing from the former nights. If you aren't checking around you constantly, it's easy for a Blight to sneak up and kill you without you knowing. Saw one in my room. The Blights spawn in waves from various spawn points, usually from rooms, wardrobes, or the former threats that you've been dealing with for the whole game. A new wave is indicated by hearing a spawn point's respective sound cue, followed by a Blight snarling. In order to beat this night, you must kill 20 or so Blights before 7 AM. After you kill enough, the game will give you the win after a short period of time. That's honestly the end of my knowledge on this night. Otherwise, I am completely clueless as to how this night works. Wave progression feels random, glowstick spawns are random, Blight patrol routes are random, etc. If there is a pattern between all of those, I don't know what it is, so I unfortunately cannot give a solid strategy for beating Sunday normally, let alone without sprinting. I can say that it is definitely possible to beat Sunday without sprinting, but whether you're able to do so is under the mercy of RNG. The Blights move faster than your walking speed, so if one spots you, it's impossible to outrun them. If you have ammo, no problem, just shoot them. If not, better luck next time. You can be so easily screwed 6 ways from Sunday trying to beat this night, mainly because of glowstick scarcity. I swear these things just refuse to spawn sometimes. There's no pattern or consistency to it whatsoever. Sometimes I'm basically showered in glowsticks for the entire night. Sometimes I revisit an upstairs bedroom with no ammo and find a whopping 1 glowstick, which still leaves me in danger of brutes. And sometimes I go to a room and find no glowsticks whatsoever, even if I've never been in that part of the house before. One of my runs ended because I went to go kill this brute, since I had enough ammo to do so. Unbeknownst to me, the next wave of Blights was going to spawn from the closet under the stairs to my right. This wave released 3 Blights, far too many for my current ammo level, so I ended up dying. There's no way I could have known they would spawn there at that time, because where the Blights spawn each wave is random, so I just got unlucky. Sunday is a fantastic idea for a night, but I think its execution is held back by the over-reliance on RNG. Even beating this night normally is a crapshoot, but at least you're able to outrun the Blights in that case. Attempting Sunday without sprinting is a constant lottery with basically nothing you can do to increase your odds. Every single strategic action you could take always has a chance of getting you nowhere if the glow stick spawns or blight patrol paths work out the wrong way. Through my many attempts at Sunday, I was able to beat it twice without sprinting, and I even got 2 stars on the second win. On Sunday, stars are awarded based on how fast you kill the blights. In order to get 3 stars, you need to kill enough of them before 5 AM, aka within the first 7 minutes and 30 seconds of the night. Is this possible? Probably, but you'd have to get very lucky for this to happen. For 1, you'd need glow sticks to actually spawn like they're supposed to. For 2, you'd want all currently roaming blights to patrol in your direction when you have the ammo to kill them, and for 3, you'd want them to patrol away from you if you don't have the ammo. Considering the odds of all of this happening, you might genuinely have a higher chance of beating 1020 mode in FNAF 2. I gave 3-starring this night a shot, but ultimately I'm not super interested in doing it. Sunday without sprinting is nowhere near as fun of a challenge as the other nights. Those nights test you on your navigation, time management, and efficiency, all of which are skills you can get better at and use to complete each night almost every time. This night, meanwhile, takes minimal skill to complete and is all about getting lucky. It's not a challenge as much as it is a gamble. So even though Sunday can be beaten without sprinting, in my eyes, the no sprinting challenge ended at Saturday. So, that is Night Blights beaten without sprinting. In case you found the normal game too easy or boring, somehow, I would definitely recommend giving this challenge a go. For some extra spice, try playing the challenge using the strategy I outlined, but without using a stopwatch, making you feel out the threat timings yourself. It's not too hard since the intervals are so consistent, but still, removing the sense of certainty that you'll have with the stopwatch can help make things even more intense if that's what you're after. Something I really like about Night Blights is how active its gameplay is. There's always something that needs doing at all times. And even though my strategy follows a regimented cycle, the random threat activations and toy spawns combined with all the different routes around the house are enough to make every run of a night feel different. You have to adapt to whatever happens as you go, and while there is the chance that you get unlucky and the night becomes impossible to 3-star, this happens less often than it doesn't. So even though Night Blights without sprinting isn't a very hard challenge compared to many of the ones the Bones 5 or Chicken Ninja or Astral Spiff or other such creators have accomplished, I think it is nonetheless an engaging and very fun challenge, and it's a great way to add more replayability to Night Blights. If you're a fan of FNAF and games similar to it, you should give Night Blights a try. It's $7 on Steam, and it's a lot of good fun. The game is focused much more on gameplay than horror, or especially lore, so don't go in expecting something horrifying or deep. While you're at it, go follow the game's creator Gary on YouTube and Twitch. He livestreams and posts playthroughs of various games with his content creator friends Sinnoh, Gab Smolders, and my boy John Wolf. They're all very entertaining, and I'd recommend giving them a watch or two. Preferably 3. I know this was quite a bit different to my recent content, but I hope it was enjoyable nonetheless. I'd like to do more of these challenge run type videos in the future, provided the challenge is something I can actually do. Let me know what you think down below. Not just for engagement, I am genuinely interested in how you found this video. Of course, the video after this shall return to Containment Breach in order to explain this dude, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, thank you all for watching if you did, and as always, I will see you all in the future.